Traveling during the holiday season, it can be especially overwhelming, but for families, it doesn't necessarily have to be. Rania Kafoury, she's the founder of Free Like Birdie, and you're here. You have 10 family-friendly traveling tips.
Yes.
The first one is to do your research.
Yes, it's very important, especially during the holidays, when you're traveling as a family, to do your research so that you have as little and few surprises as possible when you're on the road. Whether you're traveling by car or by airplane, you really want to have an idea of your transfer times, any stops that you plan to make along the way if you're going by car, or when you arrive at your destination, how long it's going to take you to get to where you're going.
And similarly, to help cut down on that time, you probably want to avoid those peak travel days.
Yes, definitely. If you can avoid peak travel days and arrange your schedule that way, especially during the holidays, you want to avoid traveling the day before the holiday, or any, more busy days like Fridays or Sundays when people are usually trying to get somewhere or come back home.
Now, Rania, as hard as it might be, especially if you're juggling some kids, you want to leave early.
Yes.
No matter if you're driving, flying,
Yes.
taking a bus, whatever.
Yes, and today is a great example of that. With the snow, you definitely want to give yourself some extra time when you're traveling so that you're not rushing, you're not stressing. It definitely makes the whole experience a little bit more positive.
Now, this next one is tricky, especially if you have kids and they have a lot of things that they want and need. You need to pack effectively and efficiently.
Yes.
How do you recommend doing that, though, when kids want to take everything with them?
Yes, well, as you know, at Free Like Birdie, we're very specialized in packing and being organized. And it's very important when you're traveling for the holidays and you have a lot of extra things that you're taking to just kind of count out your days and know how long you're going to be away from home. And also, if you're going to stay with family, you can use their washer or dryer if you have small children.
That's true.
So that you don't have to overpack some of those basic necessities.
And oftentimes, too, hotels, they have little laundromats inside of them,
Yes.
so you can pack a little bit more slim
Yes,
if you need to.
definitely.
Last tip for now, because we're going to reveal the rest of them later on in the show. Last tip for now, pack snacks. And that's my #1 tip because I get hungry often.
Yes, definitely. Whether you're on the road, in the car, or traveling by air, snacks are very important for small children. They keep them occupied, they keep them happy. Nobody wants to be hungry when they're traveling.
No, I get to be pretty grumpy when I get hungry.
Yes, and so that's something important to think about. If you're going by car, something I like to do is pack snacks for the way going and the trip back so that I'm not sort of searching last minute on the way home for snacks for my kids, their
True.
favorite snacks. Yeah, and at the airport also just take enough to be able to get through gate security, and you can always, reorganize yourself once you see those small shops inside the airport.
That's true, but if you pack ahead, though, because oftentimes it's a little bit more expensive once you get past those gates,
Yes.
you can save yourself some
Definitely.
cash. Well, thank you so much for
Thank you.
starting with us. We're going to reveal the last 5 tips a little bit later on in the show. And in the meantime, ahead. Welcome back to Mass Appeal. So we were talking earlier, traveling during the holidays. It's tricky, but it doesn't have to be, and we're back with Rania Kafoury. She's the founder of Free Like Birdie, and you have products like this. And you're here with more tips so that we can all travel a little bit easier. Your next tip, stay connected. Now, what do you mean by that?
Well, many people these days have smartphones, and there's so many great apps out there, especially to help families when they're traveling to keep things organized. Like TripIt is one that a lot of people enjoy using, and then also to stay in good communication. If you're traveling overseas, you can use apps like Skype or Viber to be able to communicate for free and be able to stay in contact with loved ones.
Now, you also say be prepared. Now, we all know that you need to be prepared generally, but what do you mean specifically?
Yes. Again, today with the snow, it's a great example. There are lots of things that we cannot control when we travel, like traffic or weather. And so it's really important to just make sure that you have things with you that are important, like medications, if that's something that's relevant to your family, important travel documents. Also for small children, a small first aid kit is something that I definitely recommend families think about having with them, especially if you're traveling, again, overseas. A lot of the times, basic medications here like infant Tylenol need a prescription when you're traveling, so in other countries. So it's important to think about those things ahead of time so that you're not having to worry about those things at the last minute.
Absolutely. And if you have something like a checklist of sorts going, and I know you have some on your bags,
Yes.
you'll never forget.
Yes, definitely. A checklist is great, and that is something that we've incorporated into our travel bags so that parents can sort of have a guide when they're traveling, and a reminder. I always forget socks, for example, with my with Birdie, and so our checklists are really important to have. But also, really taking those extra precautions. Checking your car before you take to the road. Make sure that you, especially this time of year, to have something. They recommend having like a blanket with you. Some food and water are important to have in your car when you're traveling during winter season. So
you just never know.
Yeah, you never know, and it's always just good to be prepared.
So Rania, we only have about a minute left, but your next tip, we're talking about bags, have an activity bag packed for the kids.
That's a very important one, whether for the car or for the airplane. An activity bag can keep your children occupied, and it makes other travelers around you very happy to see your children doing something productive and engaging. True. Yes.
Now, another tip, instead of lugging so many things with you, if you have Christmas gifts, if you're heading out for the holidays this year, mail the gifts ahead of time. Don't lug them with you.
We still have 8 days, so there is time. If you don't want to have to carry those extra gifts with you, it's great to mail them ahead of time, and then they'll be waiting for you at your destination. And
the last tip is keeping the holiday spirit, but we're going to have all these tips online at mymassappeal.com a little bit later today.